There is a word your ancestors did not have: cheating. Not because they were saints, because for 300,000 years it made no sense. Here's why.
You belong to a group of 30 people moving across open land.
There are no walls, no doors, no locks. You sleep an arm's length from your neighbor. They sleep an arm's length from you. Every glance, every touch, every night spent in the wrong shelter?
Seen, known, remembered by everyone.
There was nowhere to hide a secret, and no one owned anyone. A partner was never something you could keep. Only someone who chose every single day to stay. This is not a guess. This is how humans lived for over 90% of our time on Earth. A man and a woman find each other, build one shelter, feed one fire.
He returns from the hunt, meat across his shoulders.
She has roots and berries already gathered. At night, they sleep close, children tucked between them against the cold. The bond was real. It was deep. And that alone made humans strange. Because of every 100 mammal species on Earth, only 3 or 4 bother forming a lasting pair at all. We are one of the rare ones. But did that bond last a lifetime? We like to imagine lifelong marriage as the ancient natural state. The real story runs backwards. Only 1 adult in 5 stays with the same partner for life. Divorce isn't modern. It's the old pattern. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, hunter-gatherers still living this way today. Anthropologist Frank Marlowe studied them closely, found something startling. This is a real, living hunter-gatherer camp today. Only 1 adult in 5 stays with the same partner for life. Most bond, raise a child or 2, drift apart, bond again. And it had always been so. More often than not, it was the woman who ended it. She'd gather her things and walk to the far side of camp to start again with someone new. No one stopped her. No one could. There was no lifelong vow to break because no wedding had ever promised forever. Pairing and pairing again was simply how a life took its shape. Getting that partner in the first place was never easy. He can't just take her hand. He moves in with her family, goes to work for them, hunts, drags his kills back day after day, season after season. She watches him do it. So do her parents. Only when they're satisfied, sometimes years later, is she his. And if they're never satisfied, he walks away with nothing. Courtship wasn't a date. It was a long audition paid in meat. Was it always one man, one woman? Anthropologist George Murdock studied over 1,000 societies. In 8 out of 10, a man was allowed more than one wife. The lifelong couple was not the natural human state. It was the exception. It meant he could feed 2 families instead of 1. A great hunter, a respected elder. Most men were fortunate to hold on to even 1. Often, the 2 women were sisters, sharing 1 home and 1 fire. But even that was rare. What decided who got chosen and who got left behind? It didn't matter how strong or good-looking he was. A man who couldn't hunt was a man no woman would choose. He was worth exactly what he could carry home. Nothing more. The best hunters fathered nearly twice as many children. The man who walked back loaded with meat again and again was the one chosen and chosen again. A poor hunter could go an entire life overlooked. None of this made camp life peaceful. Just the opposite. A rival was always 1 fire away. So you kept 1 eye on the person beside you always. The deadliest force in that camp was not hunger or cold. Researchers traced what actually drove people to kill. 1 cause rose above every other. A partner who had strayed and the jealousy that followed. In a camp with no walls, a lingering glance was rarely a secret for long. More than once, it ended with someone dead. And yet, this was never a loveless world. Emotions ran deep and fast in these camps. Anthropologists searched for for romantic love across 166 cultures.
They found it in 147 of them.
In love songs, in folk tales, in stories of young couples who ran off together against everyone's wishes. The sleepless nights, the ache, the helpless fall. You did not invent that feeling. It was already old, felt around a fire deep in the Stone Age. Tenderness and violence woven together in the same species. So why not just pair off and stay faithful? The answer has nothing to do with morality. Everything to do with survival. A human child is a creature of overwhelming need. Our brains grew enormous. The price was a baby born helpless, unable to walk, feed itself, or survive a single day alone. And it stayed that way for years. No couple could carry that weight alone. Not with predators in the dark. Not with hunger always a bad week away. It took more than 2 people to keep one child alive. Out there, close to half of all children never reached age 15. Another provider? More meat, more watchful eyes. Not a luxury. The thin line between a child who survived and one who didn't. One people made this into an entire way of life. Along the rivers of Venezuela live a people called the Barí. A child could have more than one father. Every man a woman was with before birth added something to the baby. So a Barí woman would openly take a second man, a skilled fisherman, a steady hunter, and the whole group accepted both men as the child's fathers. When the baby came, 2 men might crouch beside the newborn, both claiming it as their own. One bringing fish from the river, the other meat from the forest. Did a second father actually keep a child alive?
Anthropologist Stephen Beckerman counted the children.
Kids with a second father reached age 15 80 times out of 100. Kids with only one father? Just 64. For the Barí, a second father was survival math. Another pair of hands, a far better chance the child lived. 80 out of 100 versus 64 out of 100. A clear, measurable difference. And the reaching for love didn't stop at the edge of camp. Once or twice a year, scattered groups flowed together. Hundreds of people walking for days, gathering at a river or a green valley to trade, to feast, to dance until dawn. And running quietly underneath all of it, the search for someone new. A young woman who had known the same dozen faces her whole life
Might suddenly find herself across the fire from a stranger.
someone from a land she'd never seen. By the time the gathering broke apart,
She could be walking off at his side.
toward a life she never imagined. More relationships began at these gatherings than anywhere else. For the young, an entire year could turn on one night. One fire, one stranger glimpsed across the crowd. So what about the faithful couple? The 2 who stayed side by side for an entire lifetime? They existed. Here and there, an old man and an old woman who weathered it all. Still shared one fire into old age. They were rare enough that the whole group knew them by name. Pointed them out to the young. The same way we still talk about a couple married 70 years. They were the exception. They were never the rule. So were ancient humans loyal to one partner? They bonded deeply, and they bonded often. One person for life, no exceptions, was never their world. They paired and they parted. They stayed and they strayed. They shared the very idea of fatherhood and reached across entire landscapes just to fall in love with a stranger. The picture we imagine never actually existed. It belongs to a much later chapter of the human story, and the people who lived it are not gone. Their blood is in you. Their loves and their jealousies are in you. Whatever you feel when you fall for someone, they felt it first around a fire a very long time ago.